Okay, it looks like we are live after me futzing with all of the materials here on my terrible Elgato camera, where I'm always blurry. I'm excited that I am no longer currently blurry. Oh my God! In the chat, I see Jeff Varenwald. Jeff, hi Jeff. Good seeing you, my man. Jeff is one of my good friends here in Denver, and he asked a question, which was, did Wim Hof have anything to do with the death of Matthew Perry? And the reason why Jeff asked this question is because I put out either a post or a short right around the time that Matthew Perry died, saying, that the Wim Hof method was popular in his area at the time. And he was trying to get over addiction, which Wim Hof was also trying to, people are using the Wim Hof method to treat addiction. And I speculated that perhaps there was some connection to Matthew Perry. What has been shown, subsequently, is that there is no connection between the Wim Hof method practice and Matthew Perry's death. He actually died, I believe it was of a ketamine overdose, which he got through a sort of a series of sort of illicit quasi-medical contacts. So we can put that question to rest. No, Wim Hof was not involved in the death of Matthew Perry. Hard-hitting investigative journalism here for you right here on Scott Carney Investigates and my AMA. All right, so we've got a lot of people coming in. I should probably let people flow into the AMA. I made up some of my own questions as well, which I can ask myself, if you guys are not putting your questions in the chat. And please put your questions in the chat so that, we have things to talk about. All right, so another question, this one by Michael McGonigal. Is that right? Michael McGonigal? All right, so he asked, do I still practice breath work? Yes, actually, I do. I still practice the Wim Hof breathing just about every morning, and ice baths, and I do saunas, and I do basically all the things that I've talked about and all of the books that I've written until today. But I am, the reason you asked that question is because I've been a major critic of Wim Hof, especially in the last couple years. And I am not, it's funny. I still call it the Wim Hof method, the breathing I do, which is the characteristic, hyperventilation and breath retentions in my bed with my wife, basically every morning. And I still call it the Wim Hof method. But I feel like, I don't know. I feel like breath work and ice work, I feel like we do need to move off from Wim Hof. Like Wim Hof has been put on this pedestal partially by me, but also by all of the other media and by Wim Hof himself over the last, decade. And we've seen horrible abuses recently as categorized by De Volkskrant. We've seen, I've seen him lie multiple times. I've seen the people around him lie. It's all about the money now. Wim has gotten sort of like really off the rails, and I feel uncomfortable talking about the breath work that I do as the Wim Hof breath work, even though I learned it from him and even though I still think it's good. And this puts me in this sort of weird position where there's, I like the practice and I don't like the man. And can we live in a world where that's okay, where it's okay to like the man, to like the practice and do away with some of the problems that were indicative of Wim Hof's, especially recent actions. Of course, I've been also categorizing the number of deaths, which I believe is at 33 or 34 people who have died doing the Wim Hof method. I just don't think he's a responsible actor. And, it's funny. I was speaking with Andrew Huberman before we went off, before Andrew and I were no longer okay. Man, I got a lot of people that I don't like these days. But before Andrew Huberman and I had our break, the official break, one of the things I was trying to do is get him to use his enormous platform to talk about, never mixing Wim Hof breathwork and ice. And he was like, what? I don't even think we need to do that because Wim Hof's not really a thing anymore. He's not really that important. And I found that interesting because now Andrew is, of course, the major ice bather in the world. And it's hot here. It's hot. I don't need my giant sweater. Andrew's like has sort of taken over the ice bath mantle. And maybe the world is actually moving away from Wim Hof. All right, let me look at some other questions here. What are my thoughts on Anthony Williams, medical medium? I have no thoughts on Anthony Williams, medical medium, because I've never heard of Anthony Williams, medical medium. But I will say that when we use the word medical and medium next to each other, I'm thinking shaman. Is this a shaman? Are you talking about a shaman? I think that shamanism is interesting. That's what shamans do. They go into a middle realm between spirituality and reality, and they come back with messages from beyond. If someone's doing that for medicine, it's not a great diagnostic text. It's an inferior diagnostic test. That said, I have hung out with some shamans in the world, and there's some interesting things you can do and learn from shamans. So, and I'm guessing. I'm just totally guessing. I'm just on that phrase, medical medium, of what he's about. So that was my question. That's my answer on something that I have no background in, because he might be a totally different guy. Maybe as a medium path to dealing with insurance claims. I don't know. Okay, next question. This is by Jaspel Air. Who is the most reliable source in the piece against Wim? Dubious motives on both sides, which seems to be driven by money. That's interesting. So when we say that, I'm going to take your question from the back to the first, right? Most of which seems to be driven by money. So one of the implicit assumptions here is that journalists make a lot of money. That is laughable. You have no idea how little a staff journalist makes at a paper like De Volkskrant. De Volkskrant being one of the most important newspapers in Holland. I'm guessing that she makes a salary of between 80,000 and at most 150,000 euros a year. And that's a really broad range, because I don't really know how De Volkskrant works, but that, I'm using comparable salaries to some in her position to the United States. She also doesn't get paid per story. So I wouldn't think that Annika Stoffelen, who was the reporter on the De Volkskrant piece, is in it for the money. I just don't see that. I do see how Wim Hof is motivated by the money, because, well, I mean, we've seen the money. You see the courses he sells. You see we've actually gotten his finances from the Dutch Chamber of Commerce. We know that the organization pulls in at least $2 million a year, and they have a net worth of around $18 million as of their last filing in 2022. There is a lot more money in the ice business than the journalism business. And when people come to me and say that I'm making so much money going after Wim Hof, I wish I could share my screen so you could see how much money I make on YouTube. Oh, wait, I can do it. I can show you how much money I've made on YouTube. And you can tell me, okay, this is my monthly revenue. Can you see that? Can you see that? Is it coming in? I don't know. Can you zoom in? Okay. I've made $2,900 in YouTube ads. Now, I feel like that's pretty good. I feel like, making $2,900 is pretty cool this month. It's not a ton of money, though. Like, Wim Hof, when I was speaking to Ainem in 2018 about the finances of the Wim Hof method, he told me that just in e-courses alone, the Wim Hof method made $1 million a month just selling e-courses. That's not including Wim Hof's $50,000 an hour speaking fee. It doesn't include all of the 10% tithe from all of the Wim Hof method instructors. And I believe Wim told me there were 5,000 Wim Hof method instructors. So the 10% tithe of all of the workshops that goes to them. There is just so much money in the Wim Hofing versus journalism. I made $2,900, and that is not all Wim Hof stuff. In fact, my best performing video is on AG1. Has nothing to do with Wim Hof. Do not think that journalists are doing this for the money. In fact, when I was, on Team Hof and selling lots of books, my good months, my amazing months, my best months, I was making about $14,000 a month selling What Doesn't Kill Us. Now, it dwindled over time. And by the time I started going out and talking about the problems, I was probably making $4,000 to $5,000 a month talking about, ice baths and all the stuff that most people know me for. As soon as I started talking about all the problems of the Wim Hof method, my sales tanked. I think I made $300 selling the What Doesn't Kill Us last month. Not in it for the money. Journalists are idiots when it comes to money making, and so let's go to another earliest dubious motives on both sides. I really would like to know what motives me or De Volkskrant is doing other than truth. We're interested in getting the truth out about the world. That is why we go into this business. There is very little money in truth. There is a lot of money in lying. So, but there are some caveats. Who is the most reliable source in the piece against Wim Hof? It's going to be your most reliable sources. It's going to be court records. It's going to be direct witnesses. It's going to be, Annika Stoffelen, who was the reporter in that piece, spent at least 6 months reporting it. And I think she is a good source because what she is doing is weighing all of the information she's able to collect. And then she's saying, what can I put out and not get sued or lose a lawsuit? Anyone can be sued. And so she's trying to weigh all that information with her actual risk coming against her. She is a very reliable source. Other people are not as good sources, right? For instance, Rob Hoff is the Wim Hof's older brother who says he saw Olia get locked in a wardrobe by Wim and beat Olia. A witness with a pretty good, strong statement from a sort of a journalistic standpoint. But Rob has a fraud charge against him for stealing about $600,000 from a Dutch film society. I think it was like the Dutch Muslim Cooperative something or other. He stole $600,000 and then got convicted on charge and had to pay about 150,000 euros in sanctions. So he is less reliable because he has actually been convicted of fraud. But on the other hand, one of the things that Wim Hof says is, I paid for my crime. I did my community service hours and I paid my 300 euro, whatever. And now I'm rehabilitated. Well, if Rob can't be rehabilitated, why can Wim be rehabilitated? Like there's a question there, like you're sort of playing both sides of that question. Also, I would say that Rob Hoff on his own is not a source for anything. Don't trust Rob Hoff. Never trust anyone with the last name Hoff because they're all a little crazy. That said, when Rob Hoff made his statement about violence in the Olia Wim relationship, it was corroborated by his ex-wife, who is now estranged from him at the time, who Annika spoke to. So you don't just and it also happened, in I guess. Well, that would have been in 1994, 93. It's not like Rob was planning a 30-year grift. He might be a grifter, but he wasn't planning 30 years ahead to tell his wife at that time, who then remembers the issue. And this is why journalists need to weigh information. They need to go in and they need to think about all of the things there. So I wouldn't say Rob is a reliable source, but certainly Wim isn't a reliable source. Certainly Laura Hoff is not a reliable source, even though she might have been a witness, but she's got all of that financial interest. A book I think it's by Harmony, might be not by Harmony, but it's, a big book deal coming out. There are, if you're going to make the statement that somebody could be influenced by money, and you think that is a good statement, it's not a bad statement, it's a good thing to keep in mind, then you need to look about all of the money in the system and who's making the most. People in Interfire is making the most money by far. Okay, thank you so much, Jaspel Air, for your question. I'm going to the next question. Do you think Joe Rogan should be ashamed of pushing AG1 for years and randomly abandoning it like he was never a co-owner? Oh, crap. Actually, there's stuff in that question that if it's true, I didn't know that Joe Rogan was a co-owner of AG1. I didn't have that information. Totally could be true. There's so much stuff about AG1 that I don't know. But he did make, so the way the AG1 business model worked is it's a green slurry powder that is basically spirulina and a bunch of other junk. And when a podcaster says, hey, I like AG1. It makes me awesome. And then, you should take it every morning, just like me. And it's $99. When that person puts a discount code, it's 30% off or whatever it is. The podcaster, YouTube influencer person gets 30% of that bag that is sold. And I believe every subscription after that. So if someone does it for 12 months of AG1, that means at $30 a month, that's $360 that the influencer will make selling AG1. Now, that's a ton of money. And I have been told through, for instance, Andrew Huberman's ex-girlfriend told me that Huberman was making around $20 million a year selling AG1. Rogan, who has an enormous audience, was probably making more than Andrew Huberman. Let's say 20, 30, 40 million. I don't know. Lots of money selling AG1. And, just like any good sort of MLM, sort of like, the top-down pyramid scheme model, he made a tremendous amount of cash. And should he be ashamed of it? Does he feel shame for anything? I mean, he also sold his cognitive brain enhancer, what's called Alpha Brain, for like $400 million to Unilever. I mean, I think he really likes money. And I don't think he should be ashamed. And his sale of AG1 is not the most shameful thing that Joe Rogan has done. I think his embracing of conspiracy theories and promoting them, just like conspiracy theories are the same as facts. And hey, I'm just asking questions. I think that frame is actually something he should be more ashamed of. What the money shows is how easily he is, how easily Joe Rogan is bought. And it's funny, this is funny because we had two questions about money here. It's interesting. I think that people who make less money are less influenced by making money than people who are super duper rich. Like if someone is like incredibly wealthy, like Joe Rogan, gets used to shilling stuff. Why is it that they need more? Like Rogan sold his deal to Spotify for $100 million. Why does he need another $100 million? Like for me, I'm like, if I had, $1 million, I'd be like, well, holy crap. Like that's a shit ton of money. I'd be like donating to charity, and I'd be like, doing these like small businesses to help other journalists. I'd be doing all that stuff, and I'm like I have enough. Like I don't need more cash. And yet these people who get interested in just making more and more and more and get so successful, it's like the money drives itself, and that's bananas. Like what I would love, actually, I probably should do a video about this before, like how much is enough? Like how can you think about what having enough is? Because obviously having too little is bad. But at some point, the endless greed and endless accumulation, well, that's also bad. Oh man, we got a lot of questions here. Okay, so, oh man. Okay, next one. Muyawat. Okay. The medical medium has oh, sorry, that was the medical medium guy. I think I've dealt with him. He's talking about celery juice. I don't care. Maybe I'll look at him later. Send me an email. Anyone who has a tip, please send me an email at scott@foxtopus.inc or sgcarney@gmail.com. Send me a note. If you got a really cool lead, send it to me and maybe I'll look into it. I'm a little bit busy for the next month, but after that I'll be less busy. Did we address why Scott says Huberman and not Huberman? Peter D, thank you for this question. This is my error. This is my straight up repeated error. I have, since I met Andrew Huberman, I would go on hikes with him, and I think because when I read it Huberman, I pronounce it Huberman because that's how it looks like to me. He pronounces it Huberman with a Y, which is also not how it's spelled, but the correct spelling is Huberman, and I have confirmed this with so many sources because I am embarrassed that I am stuck in a pattern of mispronouncing Hubi's name, and I apologize. I apologize to Huberman for my error. This is entirely on me, and this is not me trying to like make fun of him. It's just a tick, and I'm sorry. Like really, I like getting things right. Okay. Meister instructor, 2004 instructor, says, does the Wim Hof Academy go after instructors who want to deliver balanced information? I am an instructor myself, and I'm amazed ex-Wim Hof instructors like Kitaro Waga have to delete videos if they criticize Wim. This is a long-standing pattern, and I did a video a little while ago, and the thumbnail was like, it's mine, not Wim, and it was about Wim Hof's business practices. And any Wim Hof method instructor should look at that. It wasn't like the most pop. I think the title was like how Wim Hof lost his business or lost his empire or something like that. It was an older video, at least 2 years old. And it goes into the series of instructors who have been cast to the side at Inner Fire. Now, it doesn't start with Kitaro Waga, who recently put out a great video about why he left the Academy, because the Academy came out and told him to take down videos that were critical and trying to give balanced information. And probably Einam Hof, but it could have been the sub-Hofs, told him to change stuff or that he would be kicked out. Now, instructors have routinely been threatened to be kicked out over the years, starting at least with Casper Vandermeulen, who was featured in my book, What Doesn't Kill Us. Casper started raising safety concerns about the method back in 2016, 2017, and he was excommunicated. And there were other instructors back then. Actually, their names aren't on the top of my head, but I've interviewed them. Many instructors over the years. And one of the patterns is as someone gets more prominence in the Wim Hof method community and gets recognized for their knowledge of breathwork and whatever else, they get threatening letters to adhere to brand guidelines, which you can find in your Wim Hof manifesto if you are an instructor, to see what the brand guidelines are. But the reality is that the brand guidelines are malleable and they change as to whether or not you're getting too popular and too much influence. Kitaro Waga, who is, I think, around 80,000 subscribers on YouTube, he had to voluntarily quit the method because the office, the Wim Hof office, told him to change what he was doing, and he opted to leave. In fact, I've been seeing messages on Facebook and on Threads and other places that there's a lot of instructors who have left recently from the Wim Hof method because, well, one, they feel like the administration is too controlling over what they do, and two, they're upset about the recent allegations of violence. I mean, allegations, sorry, the reportings of the convictions of domestic violence against Wim Hof for beating up his stepson, Christian, is that, or Noah, beating up relatives, and that is, people are leaving because honestly, it's getting to be a cult, and this is what cults do. Cults are like, if you don't follow our guidelines, if you don't talk about the leader in a positive way at all times, well, we're going to estrange you, and we're going to just get the true believers, and we just want this core set of true believers to prop up the leader. And in that sense, when the Wim Hof method is a cult, it's not the sort of cult that everyone's going to go be taking orange juice and killing themselves, right? It's not that. It's not Jonestown. It's not put on your Nike sneakers and take cyanide. It's not like Hail Bop cult, but it is a cult. And on that, I want to just add one more piece. In a recent video that was on my back channel, so I have two channels. I have my front channel, my back channel. My front channel is where you're watching this video, and my back channel is like where I just opinionate myself and go a little bit off script. On my back channel, I did a video where I compared Wim to I looked at this book, which is called The Guru Papers, which outlines the stages that cults go through. And one of the stages is where the guru starts having sex with all of his students. And I said, that doesn't really apply to the Wim Hof method. I will say that I've recently been getting emails of sexual abuse allegations within Inner Fire, and I haven't reported on them yet because I'm still collecting information. I thought that would not be the I thought that would not be what I would get out of the Wim Hof method. I thought that that was sort of not going on, and I'm starting to get the feeling, starting to get sources reporting to me that Wim Hof hasn't only made lewd remarks, but other things have happened as well. I need to verify this. Obviously, that's why I'm not going fully public. I'm not going to tell you everything I have. But if you have information about Wim or video of Wim sexually harassing, talking about sort of things like that, I would be interested in seeing it. So please send it my way. You know where to find me. Next one by Maha, M-A-J-A, Maha. The fountain story was enough for me to dismiss Wim Hof and the breathwork and cold therapy. They were all there long before him. Yup. That's why I am ashamed that I took the fountain story out of the first edition of What Doesn't Kill Us. I feel like I was pressured by my publisher, by Einamhoff, by the concept that, you know, I would be undermining the message that I was trying to get out in the book. I deeply regret that I took the fountain story out. I have been trying to make up for that by talking about it in public since about 2017, actually 2017, when I first did interviews about this. I did talk about the fountain story. It was not in the book, and I'm working on an updated edition of What Doesn't Kill Us. I just sent it to my editor, and it will be there along with another chapter, sort of going over to where we are right now, up to the current abuse and the deaths and like my regrets. It's a new chapter. Let it. And I think it's long overdue. And thank you to Penguin for letting me revise it. Okay. All right, we got another thing about the medical medium. I'm done talking about the medical medium. I don't know enough. You said there will be more articles coming out about Andrew Huberman, but it has been quiet since last publication. Do you know why? Lalu Lala. Yes, I know why. And I don't know how much I can talk about it because, you know, I've sort of been told that I shouldn't talk about it. There are many more allegations that happen in that private group. So for those of you who don't know, Andrew Huberman was accused of cheating on all of his ex-girlfriends and having sort of like a sex addiction, manipulation problem stuff. There is an organization of women who were talking, and they were sourced, but they weren't public with their names, who have talked about, who are, you know, in a constant WhatsApp chat where they talk about all the things that Andrew Huberman has done. And I, you know, they fill me in on what's going on. I'm not on the chat, but I'm also adjacent to the chat. And there is so much happening behind the scenes. There was actually you know, one of Huberman's very good friends, a guy named John Romaniello, John Romanello, Romaniello. He came out, you know, he was alleged to have raped like 60 women, 50 women, something like that. And he was actually one of Huberman's friends. And I know that there's some sort of like maybe a police filing against Romanello, and then that's going to be connected to the Huberman. I don't know where it's all going to go. I will say that one of my disappointments with covering that Huberman story is that I was the only source who went on the record with my face and my name, and all of these other sources, and we're talking at least 5 women that I've personally spoken to, and an additional unknown number, 10, 20 other women who I have not spoken to, but I've heard about. They're trying to organize something big. But I wish they would just go out and put their names out there. Like, I understand why anonymous sources want to be anonymous, because they don't want retribution from the people that they talk about. On the other hand, anonymous sources are terrible. Like you shouldn't, like, I believe in the American judicial idea that you should be able to face your accusers in court, but also in the public. You know, someone's like screaming from behind a journalist, this is happening, and then they don't go public. I find that problematic. And I felt like they were going to go public, and they haven't gone public. And it just makes me, it's weird. It's weird. And I hope there will be more articles coming out about about Andrew Huberman and that sort of that sex thing. But more importantly, I would rather also just debunk his science. I've heard about fraud in his papers that maybe is coming out soon. And I've heard about, like, I've heard, like, many journalists contact me and they tell me what they're going to do and it's going to be great. And then I don't see these stories. So I don't know when they're coming out. I will say that one of the reasons why I've come to YouTube, one of the reasons why I have ditched the mainstream media is because I have been disillusioned with the mainstream media. I feel like when I started, it was possible to get stories from, off the ground with major publications, and you'd have a great impact. And I've seen nothing but cowardice in the mainstream media, nothing but cowardice by the editorial staffs and the legal staff at those magazines, where they do not take hard-hitting stories because they're worried about being sued or whatever, and I am just tired working with them, which is why I'm on YouTube, which I guess is the moment where I should say like and subscribe and go to my Substack and help support the journalism which you love, because this is hard. Like, what I'm doing is hard. I make $2,900 a month. Actually, sometimes I make more than that. Sometimes I make less, but I make $2,900. Can you see that? It's blurry. It's blurry. Anyway, I made $2,900 in this last quarter. I think last month I made $3,000 on YouTube, and I make a little bit more on book royalties and other stuff. Like, I'm not hurting. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I have a whole legal strategy that I also have to use should I get sued. Where, like, basically all of my extra money is in like a little slush fund. It's like, let's go money. It's all over there. Anyway, support the journalism you like by going to sgcarney.substack.com or Patreon and become a member, because I need you. I need you, and your support, it really does. I mean, it means a lot. It honestly means a lot. Okay, next question. Sup, miss you, buddy, from Ice Church. What is up, my man? I have to go down. So for those of you who are not familiar with Justin Weiss of the Ice Church, he is down in that culty city called Crestone, Colorado, and you should. And he does this like weekly, monthly ice bathing thing, and he's a really good guy. I really like him. I don't know. What's up, man? Good to see you. All right. There are only 1,300 Wim Hof instructors worldwide by the Academy in October 2024. I'm an instructor myself, and I've had a call with them last Friday. It says master instructor. It's interesting you say there's only 1,300 Wim Hof method instructors. I believe you. I believe that is the accurate number. Last time I spoke to Hof, he said to Wim Hof, he told me that he had 4,000 or 5,000. But I bet you're right, because I basically don't ever believe, I should never believe what Wim tells me directly. So yes, Super Film Regisier, who has another name on Instagram. We talk a lot on Instagram. Hi, how you doing, man? Okay. Chris G, I am all for calling out the bad guys. Your journalism is impressive, but a lot of your videos use clickbait titles and images, i.g. the video with Brian Johnson and the thumbnail when you really, and he probably referenced them very little in the video. Is this a little unethical? Chris, thank you for asking that question. I do not like the YouTube algorithm. And clickbait is basically what clickbait is when you put a video out, the title thumbnail, that is not what is inside the video. It's a thing to get engagement, and then you've done a bait and switch. And is that unethical? Maybe that's unethical, but it's also the freaking fact of the world that if I put out a video that tells with a thumbnail that I like and that I think is like respectable, what I have noticed is that it gets zero engagement. Like, you can get videos that just do nothing because we are in a clickbait war on the YouTube algorithm where everyone's vying for attention. And when you're scrolling through your feed, you see the flashy things, and you think that you're like a respectable person who only wants good information. And I me too. But when you click through, you click on the one that makes you be like, oh, I need to click on this. And so YouTube algorithm creates the conditions for clickbait. And I have noticed, so for instance, my AG1 video, I had a thumbnail, and you can actually go into my community post to like look at exactly how the thumbnail that is there, which I do not like, how it appeared on the screen. And they have this test and compare feature in the back end of YouTube where you can load up three thumbnails, and then it drops them in and changes them up every hour, and the algorithm says this is the right thumbnail to use. When I select my own thumbnails, I always like do one that's super respectful, and then I do like 2 other versions, and then you put it into the algorithm, and the algorithm says this is the one that is the most effective. And as a creator, I want engagement. I do. I want people like you to watch my videos, which means you have to click on my videos. And the reason you click on my videos is because you know my name, and you think I'm good. That's great. Thank you. You see the thumbnail and you're like, hey, that looks like a good video. And then you see the title and you're like, okay, let's go. And then you go into the video and you're for the first 30 seconds, and most people drop out in the first 30 seconds and then they go off. So there's this strange balance on YouTube where you have to like get someone into your funnel and then they have to engage. I hate it. I don't like it. I don't like it. But until someone just clicks on every video, and like, it's not just you, but like thousands of people are just like, I like anything Scott Carney does, then you have to play that game. And, it is a game and I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't think it's unethical though, because if it's unethical, it's it's being on YouTube is unethical. And I don't think being on YouTube itself is unethical. So there's a balance between, what I need to do to get someone in the funnel, and then the months I might spend on putting a video together. Like I don't want to spend like a month on a video and get like 1,000 views. I want a video to get like, I don't know, 50,000 views. And that is a pain in the butt. Okay. Ice leak flock. Ich leak flock. That sounds German or something. Speaking of AG1, what supplements do you take? I take no supplements. I do not supplement at all. Occasionally, if I get like a canker sore, I will take lysine, and that is the only supplement I take, because in general, supplements, I don't think they do much. And I don't have a discount code for you to buy my lysine. I just get lysine on Amazon, and I take probably like 3 spoonfuls a month. All right, next question. Oh wait, oh my god. Oh my God, there's so many questions here. I've lost the track. Okay. Hey, Scott, were you ever offered a business deal from Wim Hof Academy, Breath or Fire, and whatever they call themselves, besides the book you wrote on them? Yeah, I had I had an affiliate course link, and actually it was in the back of What Doesn't Kill Us, where you could go sign up for the Wim Hof Academy course. And I made about $5,000 over the time that link was active. And I've talked about that a little bit. That's the only additional money that I ever made from Wim Hof. That is no longer active. I no longer do any. I don't teach my own breath work. I don't teach saunas or anything I wrote about in the Wedge. I don't do any affiliate linking. I'm not totally against the idea of taking a sponsor at some point, but finding a sponsor that I agree with on all ethical grounds, it's hard. I've not taken sponsorships, but yeah, I did take about $5,000. And that represented, I think, 150 courses that I was involved in selling. Meanwhile, I think the Wim Hof method made about $27,000 on that. I outlined all of the finances between Hof and me in my article, which you can find on my website, called "The Rise and Fall of the Wim Hof Method." Someone could put that link in the chat if they're, you're into it. Okay. Don't trust Gavinsky tutorials. Don't trust anyone with the last name Hoff, because they're all a little crazy. And he laughed. Yes, they're all a little crazy. Don't trust the Hoffs. Rogan should be ashamed of many things. Agreed. Question for you, Scott. What has been the toughest aspect of your YouTube journey so far? The getting started. Like when I first started doing this about 2 years ago, I put a ton of work in. I tried to work with people. I hired a team, and I did all sorts of stuff. And getting the equipment to look right and the sound to look right. Like I might be out of focus. Am I out of focus right now? Can you guys tell me? Am I out of focus right now? My Elgato Super Pro camera hates me and keeps me fuzzy and keeps my books not fuzzy. And I mess with the settings and it doesn't matter. So there's that. I also, I think getting traction initially for the channel was really hard. And also like the fact that I'm ADD and I want to work on like 50 different topics, and YouTube right now is like, Scott, you will only do grifting videos. You will only talk about health grifters, and we will send you hundreds of thousands of views for that. But other things, we will not send it to you. And that is annoying. And I think that you just have to get super famous before people are just like, hey, I'll just listen to what you want to talk about. I want to talk about the freaking hurricane that's about to hit Tampa, but I know that if I do that video, it will tank. So that's that. I want to see if anyone said I am bad. I'm not out of focus. Thank you. I'm glad I'm not out of focus. Okay. All right. Next question. People talking about greed. People talking about Mr. Beast. Money. How about money's out there? Question. I know you are a Buddhist practitioner. This is from Fred Herzog fan. I know you are a Buddhist practitioner. I'm not sure if you left, but are you as disgusted with what Buddhism has become? Countless sexual assaults, money laundering, criminal activities. Yeah, actually, check this out. All right, promo drop. Okay, I wrote this book called The Enlightenment Trap, which is about my experience with Buddhism over the years. I lived in India for 6 years. I speak Hindi. I speak a little bit of Tibetan, and I've been to Lhasa. I've climbed into caves in the Himalayas where monks have sat in that cave for 30 years meditating on enlightenment. I was one of very few visitors who ever met them. I did the whole spiritual journey thing for a while, and all right, Buddhism, just like Catholicism, just like Islam, just like all religions, is an institution and has a history of violence and sexual assault and all of the things that institutions do. All of those problems are also indicative in Buddhism. And I think it's a problem when Westerners go to a foreign tradition that they think is somehow better than their own traditions in terms of like ethics. And they go to a foreign one and they put it on a pedestal and like, hey, all of you levitating monks in India or Buddhists or whatever are by nature enlightened or better or whatever. And we have this like super romanticized idea about those foreigner or that foreign faith. And I am disillusioned with all organized religion. I also have gotten a lot of really amazing spiritual insights from Buddhism, from my practice in meditation, where I used to do Vajrayana meditations and transcendental meditation and things like that. I like the Vedas. I like the idea of consciousness being sort of around, and I think there's really important lessons. But I'm not a Buddhist. Like I don't think Buddha was God or whatever, or however you want to couch it, depending on the tradition that you're looking at. Just like everything else, it goes through a historical process. And if you realize that Buddhism sits in history, then that's okay. I don't think it's special. I don't think it's going to make you a Jedi. And I think that my problem is more with Westerners assuming that the East is some sort of magical spiritual land than I am with the failure of Buddhism to achieve those ideals. And yeah, there's tons of sexual abuse, and there's tons of jokes in Tibet. Like in Tibet, there's like these jokes about nunneries, about how you're going to get like diddled by the nuns, and of course the monks as well. Yeah, there's bunches of stuff in there. Anyway, my book, The Enlightenment Trap, and I also have this video called The Monk Who Fucked Everything. Someone put a link to that down in the description. I sort of talk about the history of Buddhism from about 2,800 years ago to now, and one particular train of insanity that infects it. How do I think about the controversy surrounding Wim Hof, the takeaway from the effectiveness of his method? What needs to happen in order to preserve the value of his teachings if he is compromised? All right, so I talked about that at the beginning of this, so I'm not going to go repeat everything. In terms of what can happen to preserve it, though, I think actually there is something to say here to add. I think that to preserve it, I think we need a path for everyone who, when I have this playlist called the Griftoverse, right? I've talked about people who've been bad faith actors and they're in it for the money and various things. How do we do need a pathway for people to say that they've been wrong, right? We need, like, I think one of the problems in the world is that we go there and we make someone evil. And I actually don't think Wim is evil. I just think he's Wim. And there's some issues with Wim. And he needs to admit fault where there's fault, where we talk about 34 people who are dead. When we talk about the abuse allegations, he might say, hey, I'm not perfect. Okay. And he does. He said that on Dutch TV the other day. But you also need to be like, okay, well, you're not perfect, but that doesn't give you an excuse to be, when shown where your errors are, it doesn't give you an excuse to just perpetuate them. You need to actually have your come to Jesus. And I don't mean Wim is Jesus. I mean, you have to have your come to Jesus and say, here's what we did wrong. We need to admit fault, admit that and then you need to restructure your entire corporate message about how to fix what's going on in the method. Like they're trying to fix it by pretending he was perfect, by pretending that no, he's just Wim and it's okay. I admit my mistakes when I make mistakes. Wim needs to admit his mistakes and then correct action, because otherwise you're just gaslighting people. And I would like to provide Wim a path to do that, because honestly, I would love to reconcile with them. I mean, not that it will ever happen, but I would love to be like, look, I loved you, dude. Like, you were very important in my life. And I would like to get to a point where I can respect you. But until you can admit a shared reality, that we cannot have respect, because you're insane. And that's what I think needs to happen. Meister instructor, Isabel Hoff wrote a mail to Katara Waga. Showed his video. I don't remember that email, but Isabel Hoff has written a lot of crazy emails in her life, but Laura Hoff's emails are even more insane. And I'm sure people have leaked them. Casper is the best dude. I dig Casper. I was chatting with him the other day on WhatsApp. I like Casper. I heard all of the office plants are dead. I mean, maybe. Another Wim Hof instructor thing. How can this go unpunished? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. And unfortunately, Scott, you can't actually say this won't turn into a suicide cult. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I can't be sure that they won't all commit suicide, but I don't think they will. How has my breath and cold work exposure been changed since Wim Hof has been exposed? It hasn't. I do the same stuff. Haven't changed anything. Still like the cold. Still like the breathing. Fine. A-okay. Tree Life sent something. I didn't understand what it said. What changes will I add to What Doesn't Kill Us, my book, when I republish it? Basically, I'm going to update everything that I know to today. Like, I'm going to talk about the deaths. I'm going to correct a couple factual pieces of information, because the science of brown fat has moved forward since 2017. It's actually significantly less impressive than it was in 2017. So I'm going to update that. I'm going to update something about the deaths. I'm going to talk about the lawsuit and how the lawsuit failed. I'm going to talk about the abuse allegations just a little bit, because we don't have enough information on all of the abuse allegations, but I'll point to it. And I'm just going to bring us up to date to, October 8th, 2024. And hopefully things will not have gone totally off the rails since then, but maybe they will. We'll find out. Someone said, I'm curious about Olia's death. If she jumped from a building, isn't that registered somewhere? No, there are no newspaper articles about Olia's death from that time period in Spain. I've looked through the newspapers in Spanish, and you can sort of buy a subscription to the various Pamplona newspapers, and you can put in Olia Hoff. The only thing I was able to bring up was the death notice, which has now been, I've posted it on my video a few times. We don't know that she committed suicide, but I believe that Wim probably is accurate in saying that she fell from a building. I have raised issues with the alibi that Wim Hof expressed. You can watch my previous video about where my particular issues are with his alibi. But I will say that if the abuse allegations are true against Caroline, and Robert Hoff saw Wim beating Olia, it is not unreasonable to assume that that violence was present in Wim's life. In Olia and Wim's life during their relationship. So could Wim have been at least, Wim's presence have led Olia to commit suicide? Possibly. Was Wim present during her suicide? I've raised some issues about that too. I am not saying that Wim Hof murdered Olia. What I am saying is that there's some weird stuff around those cases, and let's go look into it a little bit more. And if I could get more records from the Spanish government, I would have gotten more records from the Spanish government. We need a Spanish language journalist who has connections, who can get leaks or get information requests to do that digging. And I'm in Denver. And I don't speak Spanish real good. Yo no hablo español. Solamente uno poquito español. Hablamos? Oh, that was bad. Sorry. All right. Nuribuela Rodriguez Yoga. The thing about predatory behavior or anything is just not cool. You know what I mean? There's a pattern of manipulation, abuse, and it's not an isolated case. Agreed. There's a pattern of abuse in the Wim Hof method, among the Wim Hof method. You know, the way that the organization treats the instructors, it feels like abuse. I'm not going to go into that more because you've heard me talk about it. Superfilm asked the most important question. How is the Ichabod case going? My cat, my tiny black cat named Ichabod. One moment. Ichabod, come over here. Come on, dude. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know. My tiny black cat named Ichabod, who is my mascot on the channel, who does not want to be here right now, is the victim of a grave miscarriage of justice. Because he bit someone on my front yard, but he was provoked. I have a whole film series about it, and my court date is scheduled for the end of November. So go follow the Free Ichabod movement. Get your t-shirts. There's links down there. Ichabod is a very cool cat and very nice. And you saw that even though he didn't want to get picked up, he did not scratch my face off. So you know Ichabod is innocent. Yeah, and that video should really have blown up, but because my channel, people just want to talk about health grifters. They're not on the cat court beat. You should get on the cat court beat and watch that video because it's amazing. Put the links in the description so people can find the Free Ichabod movement. What treatments are there for long COVID through peptides and stem cell therapy? I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. None. Sorry. No comments on COVID. I don't know how to fix it. What got you started on these topics? Looking at health grifters, I sort of fell into that one because I was looking at my relationship with Andrew Huberman and with Wim Hof over the years. And I was like, look, these guys are grifters. And I had to correct myself. I had to go in and be like, I've supported these people. And how did I get sucked in to that madness? And how can I fix it? And so that sort of like got me thinking about it. And then then I'm here. What are your thoughts on RFK Jr. in general and vaccines in particular? Thank you. RFK started out as a good guy doing environmental stuff. River keepers. I thought that he was actually really impressive back in the day. I think his rightward trend has been very problematic. I think vaccines are a miracle of modern medicine, and without the smallpox vaccine, without rubella and polio, we would have a massive health issue. And I am exceptionally happy that we have vaccines because they're one of the 3 modern miracles that have extended human life as far as they have. What do I think about the COVID vaccine? I think it was less impressive than those other vaccines I mentioned because it didn't stop it in its tracks. The output for it was just not they weren't saying it's going to stop it in its tracks. And there's so many nuances here. I'm just going to butcher them because you can still catch some of these things. But basically the COVID vaccine was supposed to reduce symptoms, and it did largely, but that's not what people wanted. And I think Anthony Fauci had the hardest job in the world. I think Anthony Fauci, what would have you done if you were the head of the CDC and you had a president who was really just wanted to undermine everything you said, and your goal was to not get people dying, and you didn't have perfect science, and your science was still coming in, but you had to make actions. I think that he did the best he could, and I don't think it was perfect, but I do not think that you, critic of Anthony Fauci, could have done better. That's my feeling. Do I regret suppressing certain unsavory aspects of the Wim Hof method and Andrew Huberman, your books that made them megastars in the bro well-being world? Yes, Michael, and that's how I started this video. So if you're here now and you missed the beginning of the video, go back to the beginning of the video, and you will hear my apology. Okay. Do you like TRT? Testosterone replacement therapy? No, I think it's bullshit. What about boron and DHEA? Yeah, no. I mean, again, I don't have like extensive background in TRT or DHEA. I sort of understand how they sort of sit into a pantheon of bro science. I think that the companies that are pressing this, like Blokes and these other testosterone companies, you'll get a test, you'll spit into a tube for a lot, and then they'll come back and they'll say your problem, whatever it was, sleep, sex life, whatever, it was because you had low TRT, and then they go send you to go buy their product. But it's sort of like that when you have a hammer, every problem is a nail. I think that we're way too into the testosterone. I don't give a rat's buttock about my own testosterone levels. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I am strong. And I think there's an over focus on quick one-hit solutions. Ibogaine, magic mushrooms. Yeah, I wrote about that stuff in the Wedge, sorta. I think they're interesting. I think they're a little bit too hyped up. I'm going to go, whoa, there are so many comments, guys. I need a moderator. I need a moderator for these things to tell me what questions I'm going to look at. Meister instructor again. Hoff's daughters posted mails from Rob Hoff that Rob Hoff wanted money from Wim. Do you know anything about these extortion allegations? Yeah, I believe they're true. Rob Hoff has sent me weird money emails as well. I think that Rob has a history of fraud, and the allegations of trying to get more money out of Wim. I think there is something to be said for that. Absolutely. And that's why I think that we have to take his statements with a grain of salt. But I don't think that everything he says is wrong. So when listening to Rob Hoff, you need to get corroborating information to triangulate what is reality, because he says some bonkers things. Rob Hoff. I did, on my back channel, I go into more detail about Rob Hoff. Some Alberto Franco. I don't think Wim is evil. We all know he's crazy. Agreed. I liked Huberman's videos. This is Lenka Rimska. I liked Huberman's videos, learning a bit about biology with a potential to improve one's health. I was disappointed to learn his science wasn't legit. Is there anyone similar but more credible? I think it's a really important question. People always ask me this, like, Scott, who's on your list? And I actually did do a tier list on my back channel. On the back channel, you go to the homepage and you see my back channel. I did a tier list of my favorite medical influencers and my least favorite. I think I put Dr. Mike at the top. I was on Dr. Mike's show. We had a long conversation about ethics, and I think he makes ethical stands. I think he tries really, really hard. So my impression of him, meeting him, was that he's pretty good. And when you actually look at his medical advice, it's pretty decent. So as far as like the mega super guys, I think he's my number one. I also think I could be biased because I met him personally and I have a personal relationship with him, and we know how those turn out, don't we? I'm really hoping that Mike ain't a grifter. I don't think he is. And I think that one of the guidelines for this is how much someone sits in their own level of expertise and how often they issue corrections, because we all get things wrong, and it's not bad to get things wrong. It's bad, it's better not to get things wrong. But if you can admit that you have made an error and then go out and say, look, I'm correcting that error, however you need to do it. And sometimes the platforms make it hard to correct errors for various reasons. But like, if you can correct your errors, that's a super important step to show that you are credible. And it's also, what errors are you correcting? Like, am I correcting an error that I was like, oh, I misspoke about Huberman's name? Oh, Huberman. Oh, my Huberman. I mean, I have corrected this. That doesn't change my credibility one way or the other. That was an error and I fixed it. But if I can say, look, I tripled down on something and now I'm correcting it, I think that shows a level of good faith. And I know that Mike has put out a couple correction videos over the years. I'm actually working on one myself. I'm just overloaded, and I have a whole list of corrections of errors that I've made over the years, and it's in the works. But it's not out yet. So, there are some errors in my videos, and I will be addressing them as soon as I get a chance. Okay. Can Ichabod get behind bars? No, Ichabod will not go behind bars, but I could end up behind bars. It's very unlikely, but I could end up in jail because of my cat. More likely, I'm just going to get a fine, or I think the most likely outcome of the Free Ichabod movement is that I'm going to win this court case in November or February, whenever it ultimately goes, and I will sit in front of a jury of my peers who better not be dog owners, and Ichabod will go free. He will. Oh my God. All right. You answered your questions a few times. I'm a little over time. I have a call at 11, so but I'm going to take a few more questions. We're gonna keep going. A bunch of people are saying that they are on testosterone and they've had good results. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do think it's overprescribed. It's easy to prescribe. It's cheap to prescribe, and it seems like a quick fix. There are downsides of taking too much testosterone. Look at Huberman's skin, and I think it sort of ages you, and can shrink your balls and all that stuff. I think it can shrink your balls. Maybe not. I don't know what it does to your balls. Maybe your balls are fine. I do think that I think it's overprescribed, and I believe that Rohan Francis has a video on testosterone overuse, and I would listen to him because he's a medical doctor and he's more aware of this stuff than I, and more detailed than I am. Hugo Marks asks an important question, which I'm going to answer. Can you name one thing about you like about Wim, something you genuinely appreciate? I appreciate from Wim that he opened the door to cold exposure, thinking about their bodies in more complex ways. I think he changed my life because of Wim. I had an autoimmune illness go away. I wrote a book called What Doesn't Kill Us about how much I like Wim. And I 90% like Wim. Part of me probably loves Wim, or loved. No, part of me loved Wim. And I think that he really inspired me. I climbed up a mountain in my underwear. Come on. Wim was amazing. The problem is that he is crazy and he's been put on a pedestal, and now he's all about the money. And now all these allegations are going in, and he lies a lot. But yes, I appreciate so much about the dude, which is why I was so in his corner for 10 years. I don't even know if I really needed to answer that question. Because people think I'm a hater, that I hate Wim and I'm on a vendetta because I'm going to make money from Big Pharma and blah, blah, blah. It ain't true. I love the truth more than I love lies. That's it. Do you see any solution for helping the average person navigate the influencer landscape? PP videos, that's a really good question, and it's something that I think about a lot. So we are all prisoners of a YouTube algorithm where we enter into, not just YouTube, but algorithms in general, where we enter into something and the algorithm says something that they think that we'll like, which means the algorithm it thinks about what you might like because something has performed well, a reel, a video, a channel, and it recommends that content to you because the algorithm is agnostic. It's not like fact checking or anything. It's like, was this shared a lot? Was the thumbnail good, et cetera, et cetera. And so when you learn about a new influencer, there's an enormous algorithmic component to that. And, I'm in the algorithm too. I'm trying to get noticed. Confession, I'm on YouTube and I would like more people to watch my stuff. Everyone is in that, is playing that game. And the people who are really good at it, it's sort of like with politicians. When you think about a politician, it doesn't matter what party, they had to be pretty ambitious to get there. They had to be able to, lie to different people in order to get up there. And there's Malcolm Gladwell has written about this, is that the people who become the successful politicians are the least qualified, because you want the trustworthy, boring person who can do policy and not get influenced by big money, et cetera, et cetera. But the people are self-selected to get there. And Malcolm Gladwell suggests that we should just elect people randomly through a lottery to be president for a year or Congress for a year. And the solution is interesting because if it was just some regular Joe off the street with no criminal record, maybe there's some sort of boundaries to how you can decide who might be president or congressman or whatever. But sometimes, just like jury duty, they step up to the occasion and they try to do their best in that situation. Whereas somebody who's a politician gets sort of like, they were venal, they were a narcissist to begin with, and they got promoted. Now we see the same thing in influencers, right? The people who tend to be the most successful are the people who are most willing to lie and most willing to bend their ethics that they hold deeply in their hearts at first to push something for popularity. And so I don't want to say that someone who is popular is by nature a liar and a cheat or whatever, but I think that it is a problem that influencers need to navigate, and most of them, even if they start off good, are like, hey, I like these sponsorships, I like these money, look what these people telling me, my fans are like, congratulations, you got a BetterHelp sponsorship. And there's pressure constantly to sell out more and more and more. And I think this is a huge problem from the influencers, and also from you who are just like, hey dude, I want some health advice, how do I find a good person? And that's me not answering your question, how to navigate the influencer landscape. I think my answer is you can't. Is it's more like, instead of navigating, we were being tossed in the middle of Hurricane Milton of the influencer landscape, and you were steering the rudder and pulling in your sail, and you ain't doing crap to navigate, because we are all victims of the system that we are in. Damn, that was rough. I'm sorry. All right. Philosophy Coaching says I skipped a bunch of questions. Yeah, dude, I'm trying so hard to get to them, but there's just so many questions for me to get to. Okay, I'll go back though. I'll go back and I'll try to go to a back one. You should hire John Correa, Active Self-Protection, to be your self-defense expert witness. I followed you after seeing that vid. I'm going to look into that. I never heard of that guy. I'm not well informed here, so please give me a break if necessary. How does Wim's facility in Poland work? Are there people there all the time, or is it used only for specific events? I think it's just for specific events. They might have like a stand-in Wim Hof method person who's there all the time, who does stuff, but Wim is only there a little bit. He's in Australia right now. He's not even going to be at the Winter Travels this year. I don't know how it works. But it exists, and it has become a bigger business, because while the dilapidated farmhouse where I first trained with Wim is still a little bit upgraded from the videos, I know that right down the street there's a big hotel that was multi-million dollars that was built, and there's like pavilions and like conference spaces. So it's grown into a much bigger business than when I was there initially. I haven't been back, so I don't know really what that is, but I do know that it's a big business. All right, now I've gone back, I'm going forward. I have had low T for a while with low pregnenolone. I supplement pregnenolone, and that has helped with me. All right. I have no comment. I hope you're getting advice from a doctor who can comment. Going down even more. Question: do you think code of content for content creation could help with this? I don't know what code of content is, but I think the idea that regulators could come up with like sort of like an ethical stand for how they produce things would be useful. And I also think that should be enforced by the YouTube algorithm. Like, wouldn't it be cool if the algorithm had some way of defining credibility? Or do I want Google defining credibility? Actually, I don't know. What if it was Twitter defining credibility? That would be bad, because I don't think Elon has done good things. It's really interesting. I don't know. Marcy Kreiner. I just read the book, The Wellness Trap, eye-opening in reference to the influencer question. Is that Christy Harrison's book, The Wellness Trap? I really like her. I think that she's a really good person, but I might be wrong. That's not her book. If it is, it's a good book. Go check out Christy Harrison, and she's got a great Substack. In What Doesn't Kill Us, you mentioned a guy who heals his broken arm fast with Wim. How do you think that happened? That was Casper Vandermeulen, and I've asked him that question like a dozen times. How did you heal your arm? with after a horse kicked it and you had a broken ulna. I'm pretty sure it was his ulna that was broken. How did he fix his arm? Well, he hyperventilated a lot. He did ice baths. He did all the Wim Hof stuff, and it healed fast. That was his statements, and I was not there to verify it, but I believe Casper in general. He was also young. I think it's important to note that he was, I believe, under 30, and sometimes you heal fast. I think there was a confluence of factors. I have had a moderate injury. I messed up my tailbone. I don't know how I did it. I messed it up. I've been trying to heal it with ice baths and breath work. It hasn't worked yet. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm not dying. It's not like broken off. Yeah, I don't know. Are you Farasma Shadab? Farsma Shadab. Are you open to new leads on new stories in the wellness biohacking scene? If so, how do we contact you? There's a connection to Epstein and a lot of these characters that would shock even you. Farsma, please send me an email at sgcarney, Carney, at Gmail. And I'd love to look at anyone who has a tip. Please send it there, or to Scott at foxtopus.inc. Both go to me. And I will read them and I will be like, this is great. I can't wait to expose the wellness grift connected to Epstein. Or I will be like, I am too busy because I am working on like 8 stories at once. And it doesn't mean that your story is not good. Or I will think quietly to myself, you are an insane person and I really don't ever want to talk to you again because you are scaring me. And I will not mention that to you specifically. I will be nice. And so that is a thing. Philosophy coaching. Can I work for you? If you don't, I mean, maybe, but I have no money. I made $2,900 last month. I made $2,900 last month. I can afford nothing. I have no money. And if you need money, then I don't know, become a Wim Hof method instructor. I hear that they make a lot of money. I'll work and pay to work. PP videos. All right. Well, I mean, send me a note. I mean, we can talk. I will say that I've tried to work with a bunch of different people over the years who are good, well-intentioned, nice people. And the problem has always been is that now it sometimes adds a layer of work for me, where going back and forth like a video editor or something, where I can now edit video. And I mean, my videos are not edited well. I mean, let's just be honest. I'm not great, but it adds like a layer of work to do that. But there are probably some people out there who could find a way to work, but I have no money. I have no money because I am not taking money from Big Pharma because they haven't even approached me, nor is George Soros, nor the aliens, nor is Wim, nor is anybody. So I would like to make enough money to have a little, if I have like 8 journalists who work underneath me, and then we could do really cool stuff. Like I could be like Johnny Harris or whatever. I am so far from that. Please go subscribe to my newsletter and send me $8 a month, and then we'll get closer to that goal. But actually, there's an interesting question here. How big do I want to get? Because we've been dancing around that concept here. I feel like I don't want to get enormous as a influencer or as a journalist. I want to be able to make a middle-class living, which I'm pretty much doing right now. And I want to be able to keep on telling the truth. So if I make more money, I want that to be able to like sort of support the general mission, but I'm not looking for like a beach house or like a wellness center, whatever it is that I might put together. And I think I need I need a goal on how big I want to get, because working with other people brings all of these liabilities where you're like, oh, you're managing a team instead of doing it myself. And sometimes that's painful. But I think I want to make like, I don't know, let's say Scott made like $100,000 a year from doing all this YouTube stuff. I feel like that would be a pretty reasonable salary and I wouldn't be complaining. Like, I'd be like, that's cool. Like, whatever. Like it's above the national median, which I would like to be above the national median, but it's not like hundreds and thousands of dollars. And so my goal right now is just to be sort of comfortable and okay, and then still enabled to tell the truth. Now, I have had this idea, like, what if I also like created like a big legal slush fund for when people threaten me? What if I had like $1 million in a bank account that I could just, protect me when I did things? And that is attractive. I have insurance and I have other, corporate structures and various strategies to deal with that stuff. But like the money for me is about time. It's about like doing the things that I want to be able to doing. It's not like getting a lot of luxuries. I mean, look at my house. It's awesome. Like, look at my books. I'm freaking rich, wealthy. I have a cat. Like, I have a wife. I mean, everything's great. All right. I have a call in 15 minutes, and I just want to say that all of you guys are amazing for coming here and sitting through my AMA. And I didn't get to all of your questions. And maybe I should do like a regular AMA, because I'm really excited that so many people are actually engaged here and are interested in talking to me, because I'm just a dude with a webcam and a little like some book writing experience. And it means that, it actually does mean a lot that you guys have showed up, and I just want to say thank you for being here. And yeah, let's keep this whole journalism business going. Let's keep not denigrating journalists because they work for the mainstream media, but also realizing that the mainstream media is falling apart and it's decadent and it's not great, and understand why people like me have gone here to this medium, because the institutions have failed us. And there's a quest to get truth out into the world. And I'm doing my best to do it. I will make errors. I have made errors, and I have endorsed people who have turned out not to live up to the ideals that I had invested in them. And I hope I don't do that again. It might happen, but I will always come back to truth no matter what, because that's the only thing that I feel like we ultimately have. So again, thank you for all being here. If we do more AMAs, maybe I'll do them through my Substack, because I do need to give people incentives to be Substack tiers, supporters. I don't know. We'll figure it out. This was really fun though. So thank you, and good luck in all of your endeavors today. And yeah, this was really fun. Bye, guys.